Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Alexis Garrett. Welcome to my home in Encinitas, California.
Soak in the last of those warm summer days with Homeworthy as we dive into some incredible sun-kissed seaside homes shaped by surf culture. From breezy beach cottages to soulful surf shacks, these homes capture the spirit of the ocean and the legacy of surfing. This is where coastal living meets design, and it's surf style at its best. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name's Alexis Garrett. I'm an interior designer. Welcome to my home in Encinitas, California. We bought our home 11 years ago, and when we bought our home, it was really in shambles. The fireplace needed to be rebuilt. The home was really, in a lot of ways, falling apart. And the people who sold the home were considering scraping it and building a new home, and just the expenses of taking this house down actually was too much for them. And so they put the house on the market thinking that someone else would be brave enough to rebuild it. And we were the fourth offer, and the moment I walked in the house, I was so taken by the history and what I thought we could do with it. The whole house was a dark wood. We repainted it, we rewired it, we changed every window, or we re-roofed it. We've really have, over the last 11 years, people will say to me, because they know as an interior designer that I've built a lot of homes, and they'll say, well, have you ever built a home for yourself? And I said, actually we have. Even though the home's 100 years old, I feel like we've really rebuilt this house. Just like with my clients, that I want the home to be a reflection of them, I definitely wanted our home to be a reflection of my family. I don't surf, but my husband and I met when we were young in high school, and my husband's been a surfer for his whole life. And so when we got married, I definitely knew surfing was going to be a part of my life. And so I've tried my best to really incorporate that in our house. And so if that means all these fun surfboards that we've got in our living room that make me so happy too, each one of them has a story. One of the big old wood ones is from the 20s that my husband and I hunted down, and we went and picked it up, had no idea how we were going to get it home, had no idea where it was going to go. There's just a lot of history with surfing with our family. My husband's grandfather was a surfer, and then so it's been multi-generational, and then my boys, that is just their absolute passion. So today is the first day of school, and I think both of them surfed about 3 hours before they went to school, so it's a huge part of our life. This is my living room. So I think the main thought on this living room is that it's definitely a gathering place for all of us. And in the thought of it being a gathering place, I've always wanted it to have kind of a multi-generational idea. So whenever our family's here, our cousins actually live on our street, and they're everything. We've got every age from 1 to 18 or to 17. So if we're all hanging out here, maybe someone's playing the piano, maybe someone's playing chess, maybe someone's working on a puzzle. Just because I'm so nostalgic of my boys being little, I have a basket here that's just filled with all of their old toys. And the kids who come to our house, whether they've been here a bunch of times or they're new to our home, they always gravitate towards it. And then every toy is all over the floor. And I think this is having older kids. The moms are always like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's such a mess. I'm like, no, leave it. I'm going to leave it like this for a couple hours. I love it. So this room is really just a place to gather and a place to play music and play records and tell stories. And so that's kind of the thought process on my heart behind this room. And then just some of the really beautiful things that I love. We have art. This is a piece of art that my husband and I bought on the East Cape of Cabo. This is an artist who's a good friend of mine, Jeff Peters. He painted this, and then he actually painted this bigger piece of the apples. The really sweet story behind this piece is I got to finish my career of building homes with clients with the most amazing family. And it was my very last project, and they gifted me this painting, which was so wild, so that I get to enjoy every day. The surfboards here, this surfboard right here is called a kook box. Tom Blake, who invented this surfboard in the 20s, and I might be getting this wrong, my husband is gonna probably tell me, but anyways, this is the first design of a hollow surfboard, and we found it from a man in Pasadena who this was his surfboard, and him and all of his friends would drive for hours to San Onofre, and they'd spend the whole weekend there. And his name is R.L. Travis, and he sold this board to my husband and I when we first got married, and that's been in both of our homes. This board is just not only just style-wise, I absolutely love it. The design is from a friend of ours, Thomas Campbell, who created it, and I don't know, it just feels like this big Easter egg in our house. I love it. And then this board is a board that my husband had always wanted. He's talked about this style and shape of board for as long as I've known him. And we have a really good friend, Ed, who made this board for Ross. And it's so funny, it's too big for our surfboard shack. And you can see it has wax on it because it really does get used. The piano, I really just think of my mom when I think of this piano. My mom was a Broadway producer, and this was the piano that a lot of the people that she would work with loved playing on, and she gifted it to my boys when they were little. And there's been a lot of sweet memories around this piano. Some of my milk glass, family photos, I just think it's really sweet I try to make sure that everyone is here in our family, that my boys can kind of know the story of where they came from. So our fireplace was one of our biggest hurdles when we bought the house. I remember the inspector, he was crawling out from underneath the house when we had just bought it, or I guess we were in escrow, and he was giving us a list of the things that needed to be remade. And he gave me a 3-inch 3-ring binder with all the things that we needed to work on. And I just remember him handing it to me and going, nice house. And one of the biggest things that we were so afraid of was the fireplace. And so when you see the outside of the fireplace, I don't know how many feet up, but maybe 20 feet, they actually had to take it all the way down to the bottom. So I remember walking into our house, and we weren't living here yet. We were still trying to fix some things, and not like fun fixing, like fixing so that it was safe to live here. And there was just a pile of rubble. So anyways, we rebuilt the fireplace, and the one thing that we did keep was this was actually here, and so we were able to keep that. And I just feel so grateful that we can do wood burning, because in all the homes that I worked on, we couldn't do wood burning anymore. So we still have a wood burning fireplace. And then I designed this with one of the iron workers that I adore, and he made that for us. And then, I don't know, this just makes me happy I made this. I have a hat mold collection, and you'll see in a little bit, I really have a hat problem, but I love hat molds. So the rug, I should be sponsored by this company because I've sold so many of these rugs. I just love everything they do. It's called Rush House, and I'm gonna give you my quick plug. So these rugs are not only like so beautiful, but they're very reasonable, and you can piece them together. So in our home, I bought a 9x12, and then I bought a 3x12. And I actually, with jute, I sewed them together to make the rug bigger. And then this hasn't happened yet, but if it does, I'm not worried about it. If we spill wine or something happens to the rug, you can actually take the square out and then sew the square back in and just order one little square. Anyways, I love the rug. The furniture is all community manufacturing, which is out of LA. They're the best. That's who I worked with and did all my custom furniture with. This table is old Restoration Hardware. I love this table. I've had it for a long time. Also, Restoration Hardware, this chair was a gift from my husband's parents when we got married. It was in our bedroom, and now it's here. This old burlwood table, it's one of my favorite things we have. It has a drawer that goes all the way to the back, and this is where we paint here and we do puzzles here. And anyways, it's just a really sweet table that I love having the morning sun and sitting here in the morning. So one of the things we talk about our house is we say it's an outpost for adventure, and that's really come true as my boys are such adventurous guys. But part of being an outpost for adventure is like we need a lot of place for sleeping bags and camping stuff. And so this old travel trunk, it's so cool. It has like an old initial and it says Chicago on the side. I don't know what the date is on it, but I got it in an estate sale, and then Ross lined it all with cedar, and that is where all of our sleeping bags are. So when the boys come in, they get all the dirt out of them and fluff them up, and then that's where they live. So our home, I think you would call it a Tudor-style home, although it's funny when you really walk around the home. Two sides of the house are Tudor. The other sides are all shingle and really have like another kind of feel to them. But the home was built 100 years ago. Our first building permit that we could find was in 25. So actually right now, this year is the 100-year anniversary of our home. And over the years, it has been transformed and added onto. There's definitely parts of the house, like even behind me, if you can see, there's an opening and 2 windows. So this was definitely the end of the house, and then there was probably a porch that's now our dining room. And so it's been fun because a lot of it has been uncovering a little bit of a mystery and story from my family of what this home was. But we have had a historian come to our home just to give us some thoughts about it. And one thought that seems really probable is that even though we have a freeway and then the beach, and technically it takes us maybe 8 minutes to get to the beach through traffic, as the crow flies, it's exactly a mile. And when this home was built, absolutely people would be riding their horses. In fact, even in the 70s and 80s, people talk about how there are horses in this neighborhood. But if you rode your horse to the ocean from this house, it wouldn't take very long. A lot of homes that were maybe more agricultural, that were east of the home, they would consider this their beach house, because actually living on the beach would not, 100 years ago, would not have been desirable. They would have thought that there was too many elements and that maybe that wasn't a good place to live. And so this would be considered a beach home, even though in our standards it's a little farther away. So this room is our dining room. This was for sure an addition. There must have been a double door here and 2 windows, and this must have been a big patio or something. But when we bought it, it was the dining room. I think one of the most fun things is the phone calls I'll give my husband where I say, like, I don't know what you're doing, but I need you now because there's a free table on the side of the road. This particular table wasn't technically free, but it was pretty darn close to free at a garage sale, and it fit the space perfectly. I found it right around the same time that we bought the house. I painted the legs, and then I kind of waxed up the sides, and I don't know, I think it's like a Corian or something. I've gotten Sharpie out of it. It's the best. And then I had someone build a bench for us. These fabric chairs are old Restoration Hardware. They were actually the office chairs for my design firm, and now they work great in our dining room. I love these wicker chairs from, I found them at my friend's store, Bixby and Ball. These are chairs my mom had given me that I love, and an old table I found at a consignment shop. And then this is actually really fun. This is just filled with all of our adventures. So whenever Ross and I and the boys go anywhere, mostly it's to surf spots, we always come home with all these treasures. These are my favorite kind of souvenirs. So that's all that's in here. I love this old fin that's been taken by the sea. So anyways, that's our, actually this one, we went to Montana this summer and we found these. So I just love keeping all of our little collections in here. I have more of my hat molds that I love. And then I think these are, I don't know exactly what these are, but in my mind, I have this idea of them being like in a circus, like a French circus. I don't know, you wouldn't want to drop one of those on your toe. And then this is an art piece that Nicole at Clay and Craft and I made years ago together, and we sold them to, we made a limited edition and sold them. This is an old replica of a Goya painting. Ross and I found it at a estate sale in Long Beach when we first got married, and I added the mustache. I think the other part that's fun in this room, because our house is all made out of redwood planks, which is so wild. Even when I explain it to people, they can't, it's hard to get your head around. So the whole house is about this thin, no insulation. And all the way that these homes were constructed was they would cut down sequoia trees up in Northern California, and they'd actually barge them, and they'd come down in the water, and then they'd build these homes. So the house is so thin, and the reason I'm telling you all that is because these windows have these really thick sills, and so it's been fun at this house to put art up here. One other little thing in our dining room that I think is so special is this marble wren. My boys played with this for hours, and I like having it here with these little nesting dolls my sister got me. And anyways, it's just kind of fun because often the adults will be having dinner, and I love having the kids and adults at the same table, but sometimes trying to, they need to get their wiggles out, and so this is just a sweet thing that I'll always have in our dining room for kids who come over. I wanted our home to have soul and to honor even the generations before us, our grandparents and our grandparents' grandparents. There's parts of our home, and there's very little in our home that you couldn't pick up and ask me to tell you a story about it. I've been collecting things since I was a little girl. I loved going. My grandma and I would call it junking. I just loved going and looking at things. So my milk glass collection, I've had milk glass since I was probably 8 years old. My great-grandparents were homesteaders in San Diego. They lived in Campo, and they homesteaded from Texas. And the pot that they fed their 4 kids with, it's actually, sounds weird, it's holding my door, so that makes maybe the prominence of it a little less, that it's a doorstop, but just that there's things around our house that really tell the story of our family. So this is our kitchen nook. This is kind of funny because there's 2 ways into the house, and so this is the way that we come in mostly, through the Dutch door. This room is where we have most of our meals, and I think one of the most notable things, there's 2 really notable things about this room. One is this really cool collection of old prints. I bought this at an estate sale. It was the man who made them was a traveler and an adventurer, and he flew planes, and he took his photographs and developed his own photographs. And so these are all different places all over the world that he traveled. And so I put it on 3 walls in this room. And I just, not only did it feel like kind of the outpost of adventure and just such a cool nod to that idea, but I just think that they're so beautiful and creative. They've got all these really artistic lines, the way that he would shoot everything. There was always like a vantage point and a really cool horizon line. There's beach scenes, and there's real urban scenes. Anyways, I love this collection. So I have this in this room. The other thing that's so functional in here are all these hooks. Anyone who worked with me we'd call it like Hook-a-Palooza Day, because there'd always be a handyman at the end of our projects. And I don't even know, every project I did, we'd have lots of hooks, because I just don't think you can have enough hooks in a home. And so these are totally functional, and it always makes me so happy when people walk in and they just hang their stuff. They don't ask me where it should go. This table had many conversations. This is the table for the 4 of us to have our family dinners, but we've had we've filled this table. It doesn't make sense. It's a 48-inch round, but I swear we've had 8 people here before. And then I don't even know if you can see it with the camera, but my husband and I were just talking about it. It's just like so sweet. There's like these little rings. My 17-year-old son, I think probably when he was like 12, he had a passion for making flies for fly fishing, and he would hook up his little thing, and I just love that there's indents from that. I talked about my great-grandparents being homesteaders, and this was their pot. I just think that's amazing, and that I've got in our kitchenette. And then this is just like another kind of, I think it's fun to look at, and it's just so functional. This little African basket is filled with chalk, and every Sunday I put our calendar and what's going on for the week there so everyone knows, and it's perfect place to have it near our table so we can talk about what's going on. And then I think the thing that is just so the most unique probably about this room is that this is the only thing in the whole house that I have not painted. This is completely original to the house. I didn't touch it. And then up here it's so wild. There's everything from tarot cards to old pieces of art. There was a women's league baseball in Encinitas, which I think is so cool. And there's a bunch of photos of that women's league up here. So it's really neat. We're only the 4th owner, but through those 4 owners, the things have not been touched that were up here. We've added a few things. I think my husband's art and kids' art, but we haven't taken anything down. In fact, when we bought the house, I had this vision of taking everything down and framing it and doing like a gallery wall of everything that was up there. And then it just felt so sacred. Like this has been there since before I was born. And so my husband and I made the decision not to touch it. And so then if we don't live in this house one day, the next homeowners get to enjoy it just like we did. So our kitchen is itty bitty, but it works, and I love to cook, so it does the job. I think one of the things that's notable about our kitchen is that it was pink granite and like a burgundy floor. Actually, I don't know, it was old, and maybe like 1980s old. And so my goal for the whole house was really to make it look like how it was in 100 years ago, or try my best. So we did little things like the sink. I did a farmhouse sink, and then I had the marble guy make this little drying rack for us. Because space is so limited, I did these really shallow countertops on this side, because if I did a standard countertop, it would have made the kitchen even smaller. This, I actually kept the design of what was here originally. I just made it functional. So now it's actually our pantry space, and then our junk drawer and our trash. But originally what this was something called a California cooler. And so we have a crawl space underneath the house. And when we bought the house, what the California cooler was this tall cabinet just like this. And it had like wooden slats on every shelf, and it was open to the crawl space, so the cool air from the crawl space would keep everything cool in here. So that's why they called it a California cooler. That was their refrigerator at the time. And then I did all open shelving. Also, to me, was functional and beautiful. Because we have such small pantry space, I truly do use everything here. Here's like my baking section, and here's my like grains, and then here's my nuts and seeds. So I absolutely use everything there. Our butcher block, this is something that I found and I bought. And I extended the legs because it was a little low. I extended it so it would be counter height. And then again, all the open shelving, there's truly nothing up here that I don't use. And the only downfall to that is that I do use everything. And so it's kind of funny because when I entertain, sometimes everything is a little barren because I do use all these things for serving. And then here's our coffee and tea section. So even just with a itty bitty space, we've really, I feel like, maximized everything. And then I love our smeg. It's funny, when I first did our kitchen, we had a little mini smeg, and we had that for about 8 years. And I wouldn't be able to do it now because my boys eat and drink so much food. Even this is tiny. But anyways, I did the same design as the kind of California cooler over here, and this is more pantry space. So I did a black and white checked floor. It's very basic, but I think just bang for your buck aesthetic wise, I think it's awesome. And then I did a dark grout. This was actually something that the original kitchen had that I thought was really fun, and it just kind of extends your working space. So I did 2 of those. Just fun for like in the morning if I'm making sandwiches or lunches or whatever. It just kind of gives extra room for the space. I have a thing for just silver plate, and so I don't even know how many sets I have, but like I might find just one at the thrift store or whatever and I buy it. So that makes me so happy every time I open it. And then, I don't know, because it is small, everything is so usable. So these are all of our serving, and then more smaller serving. Okay, so next I'll take you to our sunroom. This is just right off the kitchen. This reminds me of just a little philosophy that I had as a designer, and I don't know if this is true, but this was always true to me, is that the more places you have to sit, the more cozy the house is. So I have definitely more places to sit and relax in here. This little nook, Ross and I call it the cafe, and we'll come in here and have tea and coffee in the morning, or it's such a great place to just do your morning pages or whatever you want to do there. And then over on this little nook over here, I love this for reading, and we used to have a landline sitting right here. We don't anymore. And then the boys wrote all their friends' phone numbers and grandparents' phone numbers on the wall here so that they could call people before phones. And then lots of storage. So like all my rice cooker and Instapot and all that stuff are all under here. And then because it's off the kitchen, I can still access that. And then this is like I love, if I'm ever at an antique shop or and see one of these, I absolutely love these old like wooden work caddies. And so this has everything for our, what's it called? Cornhole, and then everything to play pétanque. So if we're entertaining, I just carry this outside, and it works really well right off of our outdoor space. So next I'll show you outside. So I think the way to explain my design career is it actually started as a young girl. I lived in 14 homes before I went to college, and every home that we lived in was remodeled and designed. And when I went to college, I just thought people knew what seersucker was, and I just thought all girls rearranged their furniture and could sew their drapes, and I was so into putting my room together. And I had architectural plans all over my walls when I was kids. I didn't have like the teen bop boys all over my walls. I had architecture plans, and I just thought putting homes together was the coolest. I didn't even think of it as a career. I just thought of it as like, oh, well, that's just how you put your room together. I actually went to college to be a teacher. And when I was about to graduate from college, I did the one thing that all parents don't want their kids to do, is my parents sent me to 4 years of school, and I called them before graduating and said, I don't want to be a teacher and I don't know what I want to do. But with a few chain of events, there was an interior designer who needed an assistant, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I knew I could buy sandwiches, and I knew I could clean out her car, and I knew that I could pick up her dry cleaning. And so I took the job, and within not very long, I was rearranging her fabrics, and I was helping her with mood boards, and I was rearranging the showroom, and she was kind of really puzzled on how I knew some of the things that I knew, and I didn't know. I thought everyone knew those things. And then I started bringing clients to her, and then one thing led to another. I worked for another designer, and then I left and started my own firm, and I did design work for 20 years. And really my goal and my ethos of my business was to create spaces that told the families I worked with story. So when you would walk into a home, the homes did not look like my home. They looked like the family I was working for. When I had a meeting with the clients, I would ask them all about how they met and where they're from and what this song was at their wedding that they danced to. And I just wanted to know everything about them so that when people walked into their homes that they really felt like they were getting a reflection of the people who lived there. And a couple years ago, I closed down my business, and all the awesome gals who were working with me went off and did amazing things and are doing amazing things. And now I just do consulting work. So I, maybe a few times a week, I'll go to someone's home, or I do things all over the world. I'll do Zoom, and we can get a lot done in an hour. And so that's kind of where my business is at. And then really my passion is art and creating art, so painting, and hopefully we'll get to see our studio, my studio today, and making ceramics, and really being a mom too. I've got one more year with my oldest one before he goes off to college, and so that's kind of where I'm at today. So this is our outdoor space. Whether it's just Ross and the boys and I, or there's a bunch of people here, we love sitting here. I put these beer garden tables on both sides of our sofa, and I'll serve food off of them, or hors d'oeuvres, and then we can play games in the lawn. But I love starting here and sitting here, and then we will usually come up underneath this tree over here, and this is a great spot to have dinner. So this is a sweet spot because it's just kind of above the house a little bit. It's not too far from the kitchen. I can still run in if we forgot something. This is an old table. We've had this before we had this house, but it's made with old barn wood. And then these chairs that I probably need to replace, but I still love them, so I'm trying to hold on as long as I can. But anyways, this is just a sweet spot to sit under the tree. And right now it's actually kind of clear, but there's just a little peak of the ocean right there. And then you can see down to our garden, and then our lower yard. You can get down there from here. So this is our garden. I have a I don't want to say hate because that's too strong, but love and discomfort with my garden, because I have had a gopher that has taken this garden over so many times. But anyways, this is our garden. We've got a bunch of tomatoes to pick, but I love this space and I spend a lot of time back here. There's a potting shed and then another storage space underneath. So this is where I feel like this is the backdrop of many parties. We've had 2 big 40th birthday parties back here. We've had 2 weddings back here. When my kids were in elementary school, they went to an elementary school right down the street, and the last day of school, they'd always come here, and we would do bubble blowing contests, and I'd put streamers in the trees. You can see this little aisle here is for the 2 weddings that we've had here. And this is just a sweet, beautiful, big space that we're so grateful for. The banyan tree, it's so wild. The way banyan trees work is they go out and then they go down. So actually almost the whole back side of our property is all the same tree. We've got this fire pit here, and the same iron worker that I was talking about that I love so much, who's helped us, he built this rack on the top. So we've cooked many meals there and just had a lot of special memories here. We're just about to have, in a couple weeks, we're going to have a big 20th anniversary party for Ross and I. So there's a lot that's happened in this yard. So this is just one of the ways to get down to the garden. All the boys' surf gear and boards and treasures that they've found along the way. And this is just this fun space that we love to open these doors. And we've had many parties down here. We had a pizza truck this summer. Anyways, it's just a fun place to hang out. And then down this way is my art studio. So this is my art studio. It was the offices for our design firm. There's offices and a kitchenette that goes that way. And then this has really been my special space where I've got my sewing machines and everything for painting, everything for drawing and creating down here. Anyways, I always love looking at other people's art studios, so I'm excited to have you guys. But I've got paint. And then this is this old piece that was so sweet. I admired it at a garage sale, but I didn't buy it because I didn't know where I was going to go. And then the woman who was selling it called me and said that she'd like to give it to me. And now I just absolutely treasure it. It's filled with papers and paint and my most special fabrics that I love to work with. These are a couple pieces that I've painted. These two I did not paint, but I love them. And I painted this one, and I've got big ideas for this blank one. So anyways, this is just a really great space that I love to create in. There's no way for a home not to come alive without people in it. When we moved to this house, I was so excited for the adventure of a new home, and it was a big, giant project we were taking on. In fact, I think most of our family members wouldn't walk through the door. I think they were really afraid of what we were doing. But I remember what was so important to me, and is still so important to me, was having people come here and gather here and make memories here. And I think, you know, one of the most special things about this room is all the holidays we've had, and the 16-foot Christmas tree that we've had, and things that have our dance parties that we've had in here. And I think what makes any home, it does not need to be designed to the max or to have a designer, but just the people that are in it, 100%. We're back upstairs in the main house, and you come through this way, and this takes you more to the bedroom area of the house. So this is, I love that I get to look at this every day. This is my boys. I think they're probably like 2 and 5 or 3 and 6. I don't know, I should know for exactly, but they wore these little shorts that I'm sure they'd be embarrassed by now, but they just make me so happy. And then my husband, for both of their first birthdays, made these little wooden, I don't know if they'd be considered like an alaya, but little wooden boards. And then they're on the reef of Seaside Reef, which is a really special place for our family. We've spent many, many, many days, years at this surf spot, and they surf there all the time now. So in here, this was this kind of dead space in the middle of the home that I didn't know what to do with. In fact, well, partly because it was hard to restain, and partly because I think it just shows what used to be here. But the sunroom that I showed you off the kitchen was our old laundry room, or was the laundry room of the previous owner. And so I needed to get creative. So I scooched this wall back, and then I put the washer and dryer over here, and then was able to make this cabinet space. So this is nice for our mops and vacuum. And then it also created a space where I could have a little mini pantry and linen storage here, and then a place for all my hats. I have an embarrassing love for hats. And then just in this one little space, I love brushes. These are just, I've collected them for cleaning the house, and I use them all the time. So I think it's fun to see them and hang them there in the laundry space. And then off to this way is my bedroom. So this is Ross in my room. It's simple and small. I don't even know. I think it's like 14 by 14. It's a tiny room. Over the bed is a painting that I painted of swamis. This is an image of my sisters and I driving for me to get married in a friend's Woody car. I think one of my most special things about this room is that we've got windows on 3 sides. So it is just so much light, so bright. This door off here goes off to that outdoor seating area. And I don't know, it's just tiny and simple. Our closet is like a postage stamp, very circa 100 years ago, but we just make it work with lots of dressers and cleaning things out and just trying not to buy many clothes. But that's our room. Okay, so this is my bathroom, and I think if you saw our whole house and you were inspired, this is the part I love our bathroom, but maybe not the most inspiring by the fact that we don't have a shower. It's very European. We have a handheld shower and a bathtub, and it's just really simple. So I don't need very many bells and whistles, but I love the marble countertops, and my glove mold is one of my favorite things, and a good candle and beautiful soap. And just again, just like our bedroom, there I have one makeup drawer, and that's it. Just very petite and simple. One thing that I do think is really fun about this room is in our room that I had bought our nightstands from an estate sale from our neighbor who passed away across the street, and she was just such a fascinating woman. She was an opera singer and a fashion designer, and she died when she was about 98 years old. And this is a line drawing of her that I just love, and I think it's so sweet that I was able to get it and have it in our bathroom. So I just love my son's room, both my son's rooms. They just show their personality, and I just have always wanted them to really lean into things that they're passionate about. So my son Conrad, he is just in love with music, so he's been building his record collection, and he's an awesome surfer, so he's got a place that he can put all his trophies that he's earned. And then this is so fun. Both my boys love watching old VHS surf movies. There's so many old movies that are hard to even see on YouTube or anything, and so they've got their collection here. And then this is an old surfboard of my husband's that Conrad and I thought was cool for his room, so we put that up. And just, it's really like an archive of fishing and surfing and music and just the things that Conrad loves. So this is his room. And the other part actually that is sweet about it is that it is a bit of a tree house. He's got overlook to the veggie garden, and then he also, on this side, you can overlook the banyan tree and then the fennel that's going crazy. So anyways, that's my son's room. I've always thought of home as an act. So how do you do home is a thought that I always think about, and it's something that when I've had clients or when I have my consults, I love to talk to them about how they like to do home. So for me personally, I feel like I'm doing home the most when I'm really engaged in things as simple as like hanging my laundry or doing the compost, whereas when life is more busy, it's much easier to just throw everything in the washing or in the dryer, or it's much easier to throw all my compost in the trash, which I do. I don't always do it, but when I'm really just in the moment of home, I'm just really intentional about what we're doing. And even something as simple as a record player. We have 2 record players in our house, one in our living room, and then my 14-year-old son loves his records. And just the intention of having to get up off the sofa and flip the record around, really, those are all to me kind of acts of being intentional, and then how beautiful to have the backdrop of your home as part of that.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.